Hi Anand, I thought today we will talk about what's happening to our southern neighbor in Sri Lanka. There's a lot of distressing news which has been coming out and the economic hardship which has been imposed upon them. Maybe you can give us a little context on why Sri Lanka is currently suffering the way it is.
Well, Sri Lanka is suffering because of, in macroeconomic terms, as we go along, I'll explain more, is simply because they don't have dollars. They have about $2 billion in forex reserves and they need to pay $6 billion in debt. So they don't have enough money to pay interest and principal. And whatever they should have defaulted some time back, and the government in bravado did not default. So, as you know, Sri Lanka imports most of it, energy
Yes, energy
requirements
is important. Most things are important.
imported, and even paper and other things are imported.
Yes, even commodities.
And lot of food articles are imported.
Correct.
They don't have money to import it, and because they don't have money to import it, prices have started to rise. There is no fuel because government has to pay in forex, so the long queues. And
They're not able to bring in the goods, yes.
Yes.
And the pandemic also didn't help them.
Yeah, no, I'll come to that separately.
Hmm.
And they are not able to have natural gas to run their power plants. They don't have diesel to run their power plants.
Simply, they don't have money to pay.
They don't have money, so there are huge power outages. People are out on the streets, and there is practically no food. Bread is costing nearly 100 rupees in our terms, in Indian terms, and there is absolutely no food.
But what created the situation in a country which was functioning normally to suddenly for it to choke like this, where funds suddenly dried up like this?
Okay, there are three countries which are in trouble like this. One is Sri Lanka, the other is Pakistan, but the government is going to fall any time.
Yes,
And then there is the Erdogan government of Turkey.
correct.
All three are going through the same crisis
Similar crisis.
in various routes. In case of Sri Lanka, if you look back, what are the three forex earners for them? They have tea,
Tourism,
tourism, and a small element of garment export.
correct.
Now, before the COVID pandemic, Rajapaksa had a great idea that he will ban chemical fertilizers and go organic.
Completely, whole country will go organic.
Overnight, he'll go organic. People want him then. And it is in Europe, Oceania region, people went organic because they had access to the markets. There was demand and people could pay the price.
The premium.
Yeah. But in case of Sri Lanka, it was not possible. This experiment, madcap experiment, ran only for 6 months. But this set back their agriculture by at least 10 years. So their production dropped completely. And so they needed to import more. And their tea production also dropped. So they didn't have tea to export. This is point number one. Point number two, it also coincided at the same time with COVID. So no tourists came.
The second stream of revenue dried up.
So tea dried up, revenue dried up,
Tourism
seconds dried up, and the whole world was in pandemic lockdown. So who will buy garments you send? Nobody.
Even factories were locked down.
Yeah. So all their three streams of revenue dried up. They're also tied up with China to make a lot of infrastructure investments. And the Chinese had lent a lot of money and they started asking the money they were supposed to get. So they paid.
So the Chinese, that whatever Silk Road investment plan, that One
China plan, it's covering India through a string of pearls.
Correct.
So you had to pay the Chinese, your forex reserves vanished, and your bond notes became due. Some of them is due this year. So you got hammered. And because there was no forex, and the forex became very scarce, the rupee, which is the Sri Lankan rupee, which was 172, became 350. Oil was still at 70.
Correct.
But the dollar value of the Sri Lankan rupee went up. So inflation, most of it is imported. So whatever they were importing, the cost went up. So that's how the first wave of the food riots started. So they don't have foods. They don't have food articles. And if you have to supply food articles, government has to pay in dollars for them. Nobody in their right senses will accept Sri Lankan money and give you food articles. So they don't have food. That's why you're seeing riots. They don't have money. Power. They don't have money to import fuel. So that's why you don't have power. You don't have cars running. You will have cars, but no petrol.
So just purely poor governance which has led to this?
Yeah, India went through the same thing in 1991. And then you had Manmohan Singh to turn it around in 4 years.
Unfortunately, we didn't have a pandemic also.
We didn't have a pandemic. We had Manmohan Singh and he knew what to do. Here you are led by an authoritarian government who has absolutely no idea what to do. That is, you didn't compound your own trouble by doing. India also had an oil crisis. See, this 89 to 91 oil embargo because of Saddam Hussein is what caused the Indian crisis. Same way, the Russian invasion has created this crisis
But
last
like-
bit.
But like how Argentina went and stood to IMF and took some money, why can't Sri Lankan government go and ask?
They have to go.
They don't.
But they will impose, no. They will impose harsh corrections. They will want to increase your tax collections. They will say from 330, allow the rupee to fall to 400. Already inflation is at 18%, if not higher. This is monthly inflation is at 18%. So they have to clamp down and go through more hardship for them to get some money from IMF.
so,
Then IMF will put its own strict preconditions to pay back.
so, but then what is the options for them? What would you suggest if you are advising the Sri Lankan government?
See, I am not any great advisor. They have to find an economist to come and take over as their finance minister. He has
Raghuram Rajan?
somebody like Rajan, a younger version of Dr. Singh. Doctor himself is too old. Then they have to do tie-ups with countries like India because their total requirement is only $6 billion. India can easily lend them 6 and change.
6 and change, yes.
But India will ask for several concessions like
Some SOPs.
not SOPs, they'll ask everything. They'll ask your
That's
entire.
the same problem with China, right?
Yeah. So China is not doing. India at least gave $1 billion of credit, and they want more $1.5 billion of credit. But India will ask conditions that you throw the Chinese out. You give this asset, that asset to us. There'll be a
A lot of
negotiation.
bad blood happening there.
Yeah, that's what happened between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Saudi Arabia to lend money. If you read the terms, State Bank of Pakistan
Pakistan,
signed up, are worse than what a Shylock will demand. So our guys will ask for the same demands. So they have to go to the IMF, take their problem. There'll be higher inflation. Interest rates have to go up. The economy will starve for 6 months. And then things will start to get better in 2-3 years.
So for
But you have to go to the valley of despair
you
further.
have to allow it not to fall. Since you've already taken the plunge, you have to hit the bottom.
No. The laws of economics are clear. You made the mistakes, you are paying the price. But this price is not enough, you have to pay a deeper price.
So there are some lessons for everyone to learn from, even for
Yes,
India.
India to learn. India will also is also going through an inflationary spiral. But India's advantage is governments before this man, that is whether it is Manmohan Singh or whether it is Vajpayee or Narasimha Rao, all the three of them, they accumulated a lot of forex reserves.
True.
So India has about $500 billion in forex reserves.
We have a pretty.
Very strong. Now, if you didn't have $500 billion, you'll be under a lot more pressure. But the pressure in India will come from inflation, for which interest rates have to go up. The problem for Sri Lanka is they have borrowed in dollars and have to return money in dollars. In all this pressure, except for a loan in IMF, Manmohan Singh never allowed India to borrow in dollars. India always borrowed in rupee. So you had to return in rupee, except for the IMF loan. The IMF loan he finished in 3-4 years and returned it even before Narasimha Rao's term was over. By the time Vajpayee demitted office, you had $75 billion in reserves. And from the time when Manmohan Singh demitted office, you had nearly $400 billion in reserve. In 8 years, it has further gone up to $550 billion. So we have huge reserves of dollars, and nobody can demand payment from the Indian government in dollars.
Correct.
But all the borrowing in India is in the corporate sector.
Yes.
So they can ask the
That's what
corporate
happened
guys
to
to.
Anil Ambani, right?
So like Anil Ambani, your good friend Anil Ambani, they can ask him, and he can say hands up because
Yes, he doesn't
yes,
have any money.
he's unless that company can produce rupees,
Correct.
then RBI is willing to give dollars. But those companies are not
in a position to
to
produce.
pay.
Yeah.
That's why Syntex collapsed. This is what will happen.
Anyway, let's see what happens to Sri Lanka, what way they find out through this mess. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching Be Rich. I hope you like this video and you would subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you do not turn on the bell notification, you will be not notified when every time we put out a video. If you do like the content, kindly consider sharing with your friends and relatives. Thank you once again for watching Be Rich. I have written 2 books in English, The Alchemy of Money and Ordinary Stocks, Extraordinary Profits. These books are published by us and are ready. If you want to procure a copy, send us a message to the WhatsApp number given below and my team would respond to you. If you want an Amazon Kindle copy, you can click the link below. Finally, those who wish to consult with me can send a mail to berichenglish@gmail.com. Once again, I thank you for your support. If you like this video, press the subscribe button of my channel, hit the like button and turn on the bell notification.